Right. Welcome, everyone, to this fourth session of this intro course to the three principles presented by the 3PGC and the honorary board of the 3PGC and the Russian-speaking community and the Ukrainian-speaking community sister organizations for the 3PGC. In this session, we have the absolute pleasure of having Ms. Kateřina Fišerová from the Czech Republic and Dr. Dicken Bettinger. And so I am going to do a brief introduction of who they are. Kateřina Fišerová was introduced to the three principles 11 years ago, and since then has been amazed at how extraordinarily beautiful and profound life is. She is the co-founder of Understanding the Mind, leader of the 3P Czech speaking community, a member of the board of Happy Bohemia Foundation, a board member for the 3PGCs, serving as part of the International Communities Committee and others. And above all, a loving human being who has fallen under the spell of listening. She used to lead an email marketing software company and marketing agency. But now, as a board member of the 3PGC, she wants to focus on supporting communities, bringing individuals and groups together. And she really wants to use her marketing expertise to expand the impact that the 3PGC and the legacy of Sydney Bank has in the world. And the incredible Dr. Dicken Bettinger received his doctorate in counseling psychology and has worked during his career as a licensed clinical psychologist. Dicken's entire career has focused on psychological well-being. In 1986, he met Sydney Banks, who shared a profound new understanding of the human mind called the three principles, that unifies our connection to a deeper intelligence called wisdom and our psychological nature. While living in Vermont, Dicken co-founded one of the first three principles training, counseling, and education centers. Later, Dicken served as a senior staff at Pransky & Associates in LaConner, Washington for 16 years, where he developed and led corporate and university leadership trainings, team development, and executive coaching. In 2012, Dicken founded his private practice, Three Principles Mentoring. He offers 4-day immersion retreats for individuals, practitioner development, and advanced training programs. He enjoys leading group seminars in the US and Europe. Dicken is the co-author of a book on the three principles called Coming Home, Uncovering the Foundations of Psychological Well-Being. He has been happily married since 1969. He has 2 adult children and 4 adored grandchildren. He enjoys photography, hiking, canoeing, and exploring new places, especially in nature. Welcome, Dicken. Welcome, Kateřina. Thank you for being here. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Kateřina, would you like to go first? Do you want me to jump in? You want me to go first? Okay. It's such an honor to be here. I love looking out at the faces of people who have their cameras turned on. It makes a huge difference to see people. I would much rather talk to people than just talk to a blank screen. It really has been a delight hearing your questions. It's been a delight hearing the speakers. I've been listening to the three principles for, I don't know, 37 years or something. And it never gets old because there's always more we can see. The principles help us become more present and more loving and more compassionate and more creative. And no human being could say, I couldn't possibly be any more loving, any more creative, any more compassionate. So there's infinite levels of consciousness. And I find that very hopeful that any of us can have insights that will help us become more loving and more compassionate. If learning the principles didn't help me become more loving, I wouldn't be interested in them. If learning the principles didn't help my clients have less stress, less unhappiness, less upset, I wouldn't be interested in them. And yet I've found nothing that has helped me more or helped my clients more than learning about the fact that we think, the fact that we're aware, the fact that we're connected to a deeper intelligence that is continually moving us toward thriving and toward our well-being. I had been studying psychology for 10 years before I met Sydney Banks. Working as a psychologist. And at that time, when I met Sydney Banks, a research study came out and said there were 410 different approaches, therapeutic approaches to helping people. Psychology was extremely complicated because everybody had a different theory. Some people said, we are the way we are because of our past. Some people said we are the way we are because of our environmental influences. Some people said we are the way we are because of our genetics. Some people because of our personalities. Some people because of, oh my gosh, there were so many theories. Very complicated. There were no principles in psychology that were universally true for every human being. Before I learned the principles, if I traveled to different countries and talked about the principles if I talked about psychology according to a theory, people could disagree with the theory because theories are made up and they change. But when I started traveling around the world and talking about, you think, no one disagreed. You're aware, no one disagreed. You're connected to a mind that is capable of far greater things than you realize. No one disagreed. Why is that? Because they're true. They're universally true. Universally true means they're true for everybody, but it also has a different meaning. Universal thought means that our thinking is connected to the universe. Universal consciousness means our personal awareness is connected to the infinite field of awareness. Universal mind means we're connected to this. Our brain is connected to this universal mind, which is the intelligence that knows how to grow a human being. That alone is a miracle. At one point, we didn't exist. And then there was one cell, and then another cell, and then they get together, and they have a party. And then there become more cells, and some of those cells know how to become your hair. Well, some of those cells know how to become your heart. Some of them know how to become your lungs. So it goes from a single cell to organs to systems. And then those systems know how to interact together, so they work together, so that when we're born, we can look out and we can see and we can hear and we can feel. And it's just a miracle alone that we exist. It's a miracle that we exist, that I can see you, that I can hear you. When we're born, we are not contaminated with with any concepts or ideas or beliefs. So we're born fully present. Don't you love holding babies? I loved holding my kids when they were babies and just looking at them, and they were just so alive and in the moment. I've learned a lot from watching kids because they remind us of what our natural state is. I have a 5-year-old granddaughter. I just spent a week babysitting her. What a teacher. Oh my gosh. Most of the time, she is so fully present, and she's just, life is enjoyment. Life is play. Life is having fun. And she runs around and plays with her big brother who's 8, and the two of them just have so much fun all day long. They're just playing. And once in a while, my granddaughter gets really upset, and you would think it was the end of the world. Total meltdown. But when I watch her, it's very interesting. When she gets upset, she's not interested in thinking about herself or what's happening to her. She's way more interested in becoming present again. Why is that? It's only when we're present that our well-being shows up and we can enjoy life. You can't find happiness while you're thinking. You can't find enjoyment while you're thinking. You won't see beauty while you're thinking. So isn't it interesting that my 5-year-old granddaughter gets upset, and within a few minutes, she's completely over it and she's back enjoying life and playing? That's what we call in psychology being resilient. I didn't know that every one of us is built to be resilient. Now take a look. As we get older, we start becoming more involved in our thinking, and we're doing more and more thinking. And it's only while we're thinking that we can then begin to get caught up in thought in a way that keeps us feeling down. So isn't it interesting that most adults, when they feel tension, stress, or upset, do more thinking. They think about what's happening. They think about what it means. They think about what they can say. I used to have long dialogues in my head with people when I was upset. I would be talking to myself. Oh, Dicken, you should be assertive. You should be able to just say what you want and talk. I didn't know at that time that it's normal to have low moods, but if you don't think into them, you get over it quickly. And if you start thinking about anything while you're in a low state, it'll keep it going, which is why adults start losing their resilience. So they stay stressed for longer and longer periods of time. They stay worried. If you really get caught up, you can stay depressed for long periods of time. They say that depressed people are spending 85% of their day caught up in very negative thinking. They're not present. They're thinking about life with thoughts that are creating unhappiness. Now, before I met Sid Banks, even though I was a psychologist and studying well-being, everything I studied gave me ideas for what I could do to become healthier. So I was meditating 4 hours a day. I was doing affirmation notebooks. I was working on 5 dreams that I remembered and recorded every night. I had cognitive notebooks where I was trying to turn my negative thinking into positive thinking. I had journals. I had unstructured journals. I was reading at least 3 books a week on how to become healthier. And psychology at that time was based on the premise that in order to become healthier, you had to work very hard at it. And then I met Sydney Banks. And the idea of working hard at your own well-being seemed crazy to him. Any kind of trying or working hard is thinking that creates stress. How is creating stress helping you become happier, healthier? Doesn't make sense. He was the first person I met in my life who said, Dicken, you, like everyone else, has perfect well-being inside. And when your head clears of all the negative thoughts you're caught up in, and you stop holding on to those thoughts like you did when you were a little kid, you're built to come right back up again and to feel better. It's built into you. You have everything you need to be healthy, to be happy, to be loving. But for your thinking, you would be living in your well-being. You'd be like a child again, very resilient. I remember when I was young. Can you remember your memories of when you were a child and you had those moments that were just alive and magical, of being fully alive, of really enjoying just living, playing? That's our natural state. If I had a psychological vacuum cleaner and could suck out all of the thinking that you're caught up in, I'd take away all the judgments, all the shoulds. I should do this. I should do that. I shouldn't be this way. I need to be this way. I have to be this way. I take away all that thinking. what Sid Banks called our personal thinking. You'd be fully present, awake, alive, in the moment, enjoying life, bringing good feeling into the world. One time Sid says, but for your thinking, you would be enlightened. Every one of you, already, as you are. Sid Banks was the first person who said, you are as connected to the wisdom, the intelligence behind the universe as any other human being. No exceptions. Every one of you, deep inside, have access to a deeper intelligence. And that when your mind clears and quiets down, you not only feel better, but you know how to deal with anything that's happening around you, no matter what's happening. No matter what's happening. No matter what's happening. Wisdom, as Marina says, is you. Sid would say, just relax and be yourself. It's normal to feel tense, stress, or upset. And when you feel that way, as Natasha was saying, it's biofeedback. It's letting you know you're beginning to hold thought, get caught up in your thinking. What Sid Banks said is the only psychological problem any human being ever has. We have a normal low mood. We start feeling anxious or stressed or upset. That's normal. Everybody does. My 5-year-old granddaughter does. But she doesn't think into it, so she gets over it quickly. I used to hate feeling afraid. I hated it. I thought it was bad and wrong, and I tried to get rid of it. And I said, if I get healthy enough, I won't feel afraid. Well, I still feel afraid, but now it doesn't frighten me. It's a friend. My anger is a friend. My hurt is a friend. It's saying, Dicken, you're holding thought. Let it go. Be like a child. Come back to the now. I can remember when I very first started learning the principles, and I heard people say, you're always in a feeling every moment, and whatever you're feeling is created by what you're thinking. And I said, it can't be that simple. Well, I'm a psychologist. I know about this. This is very complicated. There's many reasons why people feel what they feel. It's certainly not just one reason, thought. But I was curious because I was so anxious. I was desperate to learn how to live with less anxiety. I was constantly thinking about life, so I was preoccupied a good part of the time. So I wasn't living in the present moment. And it's only when we're fully present that we can be like a child again. Enjoy life. Be loving. It's our natural state. It's our birthright. If you're present, you'll go through your low moods very gracefully with resilience. You'll get upset. I watch the news, and when I see the horrors happening in the world, at times I get very upset, very sad, sometimes very angry. And when I start feeling that way too strongly, I turn the TV off because, like Marina said, do you really want to keep creating that misery as a way of helping the world? So I turn it off. And my response to the horrors of the world is to quiet down until I find a nicer feeling. And then now I'm bringing more love into the world. The only response to violence is to bring more love in the world. I used to think, how could that possibly be? I could see how I could do that when I'm in nature by myself, quiet down like I did as a child, climbing trees, building forts in the woods, hiking. My mind would quiet down and I would feel so alive and so free and so connected to nature. But how could that happen if you're in a war zone? I used to wonder that as a kid. How would I do if I was in a situation like that? Well, when I was a young adult, I found out. I went on vacation by myself in Peru, and I got off the plane by mistake in the wrong place, and it turned out to be where a war was raging. And I was the only North American in that city, and I stood out. I said to the people in the airport, am I safe? And they said, no. And I said, okay, I'll stay in the airport. And they said, no, the guerrillas are trying to take over the airport. They close it down and fill it with soldiers every night. I spent a week and I had machine guns pointed in my chest. I had bullets shooting all around me. I thought I was, for the first time in my life, I was sure I was going to die. But our minds always work the same way. And at one point, by incredible grace, I realized how every thought I was having was holding on very tightly to fear. And no human being, every human being is a thought away from being present. Being present, you can't think and be present. If I'm with my wife, if I'm thinking, I'm not present. She can tell. She's told me many a time, you're not here. I go, oh, okay. Okay, now I'm here. And now I'm here. I let go of what I was thinking about. Okay, now I'm here. Every human being is a thought away from being present. And in the present, you'll feel whatever you're feeling. But when we're present, we let go of our hold on fearful thought. And when we let go of the hold on fearful thought and feeling are just energy. And we stop holding them. That energy opens up and flows and expands. Our bodies do one of two things. They contract or they expand. In some spiritual teaching, they say there are only two emotions for human beings, fear and love. One time, Sid said, you know what ego is? Everything you think. Because when we think, it starts contracting. And when you let go of your thinking, it starts opening up again. Closed-minded, open-minded. When our mind is open, we're open to the flow of universal life energy. And when life energy flows through us, it feels good. So when we become more present, life energy flows through us in a beautiful way. So here I was in the middle of this war zone. I've never been so frightened. I woke up in the middle of the night. They were shooting right outside my door of the room I was staying in. I woke up in the fetal position crying. I was so frightened. And then I had an insight. It was not intellectual. I can't even explain it. But I realized I was holding on to all these fearful thoughts. And for a moment, I came back to the present moment without any holding. And the feeling started to open up, as it does for anyone. You let go of the negative and it opens up, and you don't have to try and think positive. We're built to feel good. This energy flows through us. It's like having a garden hose and water flowing through it. And if you crimp the hose, the pressure builds up. When we're holding thought, the pressure builds up. When we let go of the thought that's creating our tension, stress, or upset, the water of life flows through us. We're in the flow. As Sid would say, we're in harmony with the principles. We begin to feel more peaceful as we let go of our upsetting thoughts. Our senses come alive as our heads clear. We begin to feel more alive. That's when you're able to see beauty, right? As our minds quiet down, we begin to feel closer to anything around us. If you go for a walk in the woods, and I go for lots of walks in the woods with friends, if we're caught up in thinking we don't see the trees, we don't see beauty, we're in our heads. If we come out of our heads, as often happens in nature for people, the beauty, the way the sun comes down through the trees can bring tears to my eyes. The way the wind blows against my face is so sensual. It's beautiful. The colors become brighter. It's true for anyone. You're beginning to experience, as Marina says, less separation and more connection, more aliveness. When I'm with my wife, when I fall out of my head into this deep, quiet feeling space, I fall in love over and over again with her. We met in 1969, and I keep having a crush on her over and over again. I used to think I had to do something in order to get love, or I had to be loved in order to feel love. Now I know when I fall out of my thinking far enough, my heart opens up and I will feel love for what's around me. I can fall in love with a flower, with a plant, with a tree. So here I was in the midst of a war zone, and suddenly I found out I had the capacity built into me to be kind and loving to the other people around me who were frightened. For the past 3 years, I've been doing trainings for people, war refugees in the Ukraine, war refugees in the Middle East, war refugees in Africa. We have 23 principal projects going on now in Africa, teaching this. And people are finding out that being present is free. So being happy is free. And they're bringing, it's so touching. They're bringing warmth and kindness to each other. They never realized that they had God's love or happiness within them. It's within everyone. Sid used to say, you have beautiful, beautiful feelings inside of you. All you have to do is find them. All you have to do is get your ego thinking out of the way. And you'll start feeling lighter and freer And the more you get out of the way, the more your happiness will just be like a little kid's again. Your senses will come alive. I worked with a woman who was clinically depressed. And by being warm and loving and present to her, within 10 minutes, we were laughing. And I said to her, right now, you're not depressed. You know what she said? Yes, I am. You see, the clouds of her thinking parted, and there was blue sky of presence, and then the warmth of the sun, her humor, her kindness came right out. But she hadn't learned yet that she had it in her, that she was that's her true self. Take away all the personal thinking, and your true self is always here. The sun, the light of the spiritual light of being, the innate well-being, the light of wisdom. These are metaphors that have been used by centuries in every culture. Go to the light, lighten up, be a light unto the world, bring light into the darkness. To watch war refugees bringing light into people who have been maimed and tortured and witnessed unbelievable horrors, and they're still able to access their well-being. Why is that? Because it can't be broken, it can't be damaged, it's formless, it's the alive, it's our true heart. Our true heart, not our physical heart, our true heart. You know how they say, get out of your head into your heart? It's true. I used to think when I didn't feel close and loving to my wife that it was a problem, and it was a problem in our relationship, or it was because of how my wife was being. Now I don't think it's a problem, and it's not because of my wife. It's not because of our relationship problem. It's because I'm caught up in my thinking in a way that I'm locked into a negative view of life. And when I realize that, it's just thought. And I let it go. I'm a thought away from the present moment. Everyone is. And when you learn to rest in the present moment, you don't become stupid or dumb or being vulnerable or being taken advantage of. You become more loving and you become wiser. My daughter was 14 when I started to learn this. My son was 9. There were no books. There were no tapes. There were a couple of SID tapes, but that's all. No YouTube channels to go to. No books written about the principles. So we were sort of learning as we went. And I would see my kids in a low state, caught up in their thinking, and I'd run up to them with good intention and say, Nina, sweetie, you're just caught up in your thinking. It's okay. It'll let it go and it'll pass, and it's normal, and it's okay to feel that way, and it's just thought. Let me tell you, if you ever try to teach somebody who's holding on to thought and miserable, it is not a teachable moment. My kids put up with it for a week before they came to meet together, and my daughter said, Dad, Ben and I have been talking. We've decided if you say one more word about thought or moods, we're going to run away. And in that moment, I was so stunned because that's the last thing I wanted to do was turn them off about this. I desperately wanted to share what I was learning that was helping me right away. But I said to them, this is wisdom. It just came out. It just popped out. I said, I'll never talk to you about this again unless you ask me. And then I'm going, oh my God, really? Never? What if they never ask me? How will they learn this? Oh my God. Oh, this could help them so much. But I kept my word for 6 months. But you know what it made me do? Stop trying to teach what I didn't know. And for 6 months, I started to just be aware of my feelings. And I realized if I know when I start tensing that it means I'm caught in thought. That's all I need to do. It's not a technique. If I put something too hot in your hand, you would not ask me for, Dicken, how do I let go? How do I clear my mind? How do I drop thought? You would not ask me. You would do this. So Sid Banks says, if you really realize you're holding thought that's hurting you, that's creating your stress, your tension, your upset, you'll let go. So he said, if you really see thought, it'll bring you right back to the now. Because in the now, you can't hold thought while you're in the now. It flows. It's still going on. You may still have a lot of thoughts, but they're just flowing through. You may still feel horrible, but now it's flowing through. And you'll come back up. You were built to come back up again. So Sid would say, you want to help your wife? Look within. Go beyond your thinking to the quiet. And in that quiet, there's a nice feeling. And in that feeling is all the knowing you need to guide you. He said, don't take my word for it, ever. Don't even listen to my words. You find out if that isn't true. So I got intensely curious. If I go beyond my thinking to this quiet that's always there, and I'm aware of just being present, there's a feeling to being present for anyone. You don't have to label it. You don't have to think about it. There's just the feeling of presence. Feels good. Sid would say it's a nice feeling. He said there's no language, no word in any language for that feeling because you're not in your conceptual mind. You're just present. You're not thinking about it. You're just in a feeling. So when my daughter was 9, my son was 9, my daughter was 14. After they started getting curious, because they saw me change during that 6 months, I became more present, less preoccupied, more playful, more fun. I started bringing good feeling to them more consistently. When I was upset, I wouldn't parent. I would wait until my head cleared. Parenting became enjoyable. So I told my daughter and my son, there's only 2 things I want you to learn before you leave home. Because now they were interested. Now they were students. Now they were curious. Number 1, whatever you think you're going to feel, just being aware of that will help you become sane. You know why? Because if you say what I'm feeling now is coming from the power of thought, you'll stop blaming the world for what you feel. That'll change your life. I guarantee it. I've seen it change thousands of people that I've worked with. thousands and thousands of people who've begun to become aware of my feelings come from thought, not from my wife, not from my kids, not from the traffic, not from the weather, not from my past, not from, it's coming from my present moment thinking. You feel sad, you're thinking sad. You feel anxious, you're thinking anxious. You don't have to know what it is to let it go. Well, hopefully this has been helpful to you. Thank you for this opportunity, and I want to turn it over to my friend, good friend, Kateřina now.
Thank you. I can listen to you hours. It was amazing. Thank you.
Kateřina, I'm sorry, can I just say, I forgot one thing. I said there were two things I wanted my kids to know.
Yes, please.
I told you the first thing. The second thing I told them, and I tried to make it simple for them. I didn't talk about mind and consciousness. I just said, I want you to understand that when your mind quiets down, you always feel better. And when you feel better, you have all the common sense you need to deal with any problem you're facing, no matter what it is. Trust it. Learn to listen for and trust your own common sense. That's how I taught my kids. Then those were the two things I wanted my clients to learn. Now this is two things I want you folks to learn. This is becoming more aware of thought and more aware of wisdom. That's all I want people to learn anywhere in the world. And it'll change your life. I know it will. Okay, thanks, Kateřina. I didn't want to leave the end of the story, the punchline of the story, untold.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry.
No. It's great. I woke up today morning with, I think, 1,000 thoughts about what I need to share with you. I was full of worries how it will go. And it was an amazing experience for me. Because I remind to myself how I behaved before I meet three principles when I had a fear. And how it looks like today. Do you know, I study school what ordinary students study 4 years. I studied 6 years. Because every time when I was worried about some exams or the possibility that I will need to speak in front of the class, I was so afraid that I just skipped the school. Simple solution if you believe that it's, outside in experience. I believe that I knew what would happen. I was sure that I will speak in front of the class. It wasn't true, but I scared myself and I believed the thought. And what's more funny, I believed that I knew how I would feel in front of the class. It's amazing. We had no idea how we will feel when something will happen. And today morning I woke up with a lot of worries. And I was grateful that I felt them, because I know that, in my head it's some movie now. And the spices around it trying to take my attention. You don't need to go there. It's not true. You have no idea what will be happen afternoon. You know that in the moment when you will be there, you will know what to say. You can trust to the present moment. You can trust to the wisdom, because it's still here. It was a great reminder for me. again. And it's something what I see around me, what three principles do for us. We still have thoughts, we still have feelings, but our relationship with them is different. Our relationship with life, then it's different. I believed, and I'm curious if you have the same experience like me. I saw it with many people around me, that I believed that happiness or well-being or fulfillment, it's something what we can achieve in some moments. It's like the special moment. It's something what's not ordinary thing. And what I see now, nobody taught me that it's different. I was thinking that I need a job, that I need to lose weight, that I need to, somebody loved me, I need a partner, I don't know, so many things I need. In the way that after that, I think that then I could be happy, finally. If you hear some noise around me, I have a new puppy and she is so alive and destroy everything around me. Don't worry, I'm okay. And I hope she will be okay as well. Okay. I remember when I started to learn three principles. Yeah. And it's amazing because my first experience on a workshop with three principles was with Dicken Bettinger. And it's amazing how we can start now. It's a wonderful story for many reasons, and I will tell you all of them. I was going to England to the 3 days workshop about three principles. And I had the belief, what I told you before, that you need to something to find happiness. But there is the thing, I didn't speak English that time. I was sitting in the room full, I think 50, 100, I have no idea how many people was there, but they spoke English, me not. And I was sitting there and I really struggled first day. Because I am trying to understand something, but I wasn't able to understand. And it's amazing metaphor, because now I see so many people who are trying to understand three principles and they are speaking English. But they are using the same tool. They are trying to understand intellectually to find a way how to. Anyway. And second day, there were few moments when I just feel really good without no reason. Honestly, I took some words. I understood family, wife, but, it was like 5% of the speech. But there were moments when I was really fine and felt well. And then I was lost again in the mess with the thinking, oh, it was so stupid idea. What did you think to come here, Whoa, so silly, so much money, no way. Last day, I was sitting in the room and was overwhelmed with the feeling of love. The unconditional love. The feeling of happiness. And for a moment, I tried to figure it out what happened, and I lost it. But then it came back. And I saw, oh, my intellect said, oh, it's because you are here. You are here in the room with someone who is so amazing guy, he is full of love, it's because him. But I felt inside that it's not true. It wasn't true. It wasn't about him. And then another thought came to me, and it's because you are. You are. it's enough. And it really, struck me. I didn't understand it here. I didn't understand it, but I felt that it was true. And I became curious to know more after that. And I started learning English. But what was really amazing was that it's true. It's beyond the words. And it needs to look within. Because something in me really understood. The feeling was the proof. And I found that the feeling, it's me. And this feeling is here the whole time. But it doesn't mean that we experience it the whole time. Because sometimes our mind innocently just catch some thought, the habit of, and we are trained really well from our childhood to figure it out, everything. And it means that sometimes our little mind try to figure it out something, because then we will be happy. It's still the same habit. It's still the same misunderstanding. I don't know the word in English, sorry. But it's innocent. It's what I see in it. We lost the experience of the well-being because our mind, it makes sense to her, try to figure it out something. We're doing it innocently. But the awful taste of the thinking, the not feeling good feeling of holding hand like this is the wisdom saying us, no, you don't need. It's not your job. Relax again. You don't need to go this direction. And in that moment, if we settle down, if the mind is quiet, if we are coming home, there is so many ways how I can describe it, how so many people describe it. We can experience again the present, what we are. Nobody told me that I am already in the place what I am looking for, what I am trying to find. And every my trying to figure it out, just change my ability to see it, because I'm focused on something and I don't experience everything what is happening now. I loved what Marina said, that she did the experiment with, I don't know how you said it, but for me it was something like to give my well-being on the first place or something like that. And I did the same thing from the different reasons, like experiment a few years ago. And for me, I just wanted to know if it's true that if I'm calm, I'm able to find better solutions. If I can thrive more. If it's true, because it still sounds for me like a good idea for some moments, for some situations, but I saw so many in my head, so many things that it's not true yet. And I wanted to try if it's true or not. When the war began, it was the starting point for me with this experiment, because I was overwhelmed and many clients came to me with the same thing. What would happen? what we can do. If this is true, oh my God. And I saw so clearly that I'm not able to help them if I am lost as well. And I saw that my well-being, my state of mind is the starting point. And I allow myself to settle down because I love the metaphor of what Natasha used with the snowing ball. Snowing ball? To think where is the snow and something is inside and you can see it when you stop doing this. I just stopped to push the fuel in the car and the car started to slow down. I stopped to, I will stop with this metaphor. I just stopped, overwhelmed myself with what if. And the system did what the system, it's how it's working. It settled down. And in that moment, I found the first idea what I can do, what makes sense to me. And I asked my boyfriend, and we just took some family to our house that they can live with us. But for me, it was the, how to say, first realization of the practicality of settle down. And from that moment, I tried to, sometimes didn't, but sometimes these thoughts came back to me to try it. And I started to do it in the situation, what I was thinking that it's not. I like how to make money in my software company. How to find solution with some people who I really don't like to speak with them. And I didn't found any one situation in last 2 years when it wasn't work. I heard quote from Sydney Banks that less selfish, and sorry, my English again, it could be a little bit different word, but I hope that the message is still the same. The less selfish thing on the world, it's to being selfish about your inner well-being. For me, it's connected with the another quote that the mind full of love can't go wrong. And it's what does it mean for me to be navigated by the feeling. And I see how well we are made to be able to notice if we experience this or this, if we can breathe or can't. And the noticing of this navigation of the feeling. I am experience present moment fully, or I am wandering somewhere else. And again, just thinking, before I met Free Principles, if I wanted to be happy, I really need to change my circumstances. I can change my boyfriend. It was a difficult job to change someone. Did you try something like that somewhere? You know, it's... But then I realized interesting thing. Someday I woke up, he was lying close to me and told me, "Good morning, honey." And I was the best happy woman on the world. Sometimes we woke up and he told me, "Good morning, honey." And in my head was, "Oh, I will kill you again." You know, another day. What was different? he was still the same. Oh, interesting. Hmm. The knowing that we are creating our experience from within. It doesn't mean that we are doing it, I think nobody wants to hurt ourselves. We are really doing it innocently. It's creating within us, maybe. It's better to say, because the language here, it seems to me, if I am saying I am creating, it's mean I am doing it, consciously. But it's happening within, from us, inside from us. So wonderful. I will tell you another story with my boyfriend, ex-boyfriend. When he broke up with me, it surprised to me that there were days that I was so grateful that he did it. And there were days that I was so lost. Marina is laughing because she knows about it from the first line. But one day I started arrange my new flat and put the pictures on the wall and just arrange things around me, and I was so fulfilled and full of life. I enjoy everything. And then I found myself on the floor in the hysterical crying. And then I realized my thought in that moment, oh, I will show you. What did you do to me? And then I say, oh, what's different? The situation was same 5 minutes ago. And I saw it so clearly. I'm creating suffering for me just now. Wow. I don't want. My God. And I was present again. And during these days, I found myself just repeatedly this habit again and again and again, going to the direction to discussion with him and trying to solve something, and realize, no, I don't need to go there, and feel relief again. And there is no technique how to do it. If it became obvious and if you really see that you are doing that, then it's inevitable if you stop holding the thought that some new will come and you will do something without doing it like a technique. You will just have a new thought. When I learned that we are wisdom, that there is every answer what we need inside us, I just believe that I can ask and then I will have an answer for thing what I want immediately, But sometimes to voice what or think what I heard from silent space was in absolutely opposite direction that I was thinking that the advice will sound. Like, just, what about green tea? Don't you want to prepare green tea for you? And it didn't sound like something from the wisdom for me. Because I was waiting for answer how I will get my boyfriend back, Go prepare the green tea for you now. What? But what was really true was that in that moment I had really good feeling about to have a cup of green tea and sit for a little bit more. And then another feeling was appear, what I can do next. And life again started to navigate me during the feeling. I love that. I really love that. I'm so grateful.
Mm.
I have a new dog, just 3 weeks. I never... I just didn't know how much time I spent before thinking about me. But with her, I have opportunity to, not thinking about me so much. Because I really need to be in the present moment, and it's amazing that it's still here. Okay. I think I'm done for today, but maybe Dicken, if you want to say something or if we have some question, I will be happy for that. Dicken need unmute. Again.
Okay, thank you. Oh, that was very nice, Kateřina. Very nice. It's so funny how we think we know what wisdom should bring us. So I love your story of when you got quiet. What made sense was to have a cup of green tea. The first time I went to England to do a training, there were 65 people and everybody was dissatisfied because everybody was saying, when am I going to have my big insight? And everybody's waiting for a big insight. That's not the point. The point is we're a thought away from the present moment, and in that space, there's beautiful feeling. That's what you're looking for. And in that beautiful feeling, it may take you to the bathroom. It may take you to call a friend. It may take you to go shopping. It may take you to have an important conversation with someone, but you never, ever, ever know where it's going to take you. You can't second guess wisdom. It's the intelligence of the universe. Ego is thinking, I know better than wisdom does. I should do this, I should do that. And that thinking creates all kinds of tension in us. You know, it's 1:30. What we have half an hour, and rather than leave 20 minutes for conversation, my favorite thing is talking to people and hearing. I'd love to hear from people anything you're hearing that's making sense to you, or anything that is already starting to help you in your daily life. And certainly if anybody has a question, all questions are welcome. So if we could just open it up.
We already have a few questions and comments on the chat box, so I will start there.
Great.
Thank you so much for this. Each speaker is wonderful. How to best help those who have been lost in habitual personal thinking that causes, quote unquote, mental illness, bipolar, complex PTSD, OCD, addictions, schizophrenia, etc. where one is unable to let go of or stop thinking, unable to quiet the mind, and the medications don't help. I know that some are able to experience such a depth of insight that they have big shifts in consciousness and thus experience life quite differently. But what about those who cannot yet? How best can we help?
If someone comes to see me as a mentor or as a therapist, we have a contract that they're giving me permission to teach. So it's much easier for me then to teach what I know that's helped me, that's true for everybody, that could help them. If it's a friend or a family member, I don't have a contract with them that I'm their teacher. With your wife, with your husband, you don't have they haven't hired you to be their therapist. So what can we do to help people that we know that are struggling deeply? I can't tell you how powerful loving presence is. I can't tell you how helpful that is. Most people are not used to people being fully present with them and in that deeper feeling. Most people are used to being with people who are thinking about how they're behaving and thinking about what to say to them and thinking about how to be. But I tell you, just loving presence. A very quick story. At one point, I was teaching high school early on in my career, and we had a program where I was taking a group of 8 high school students 4 days a week into the locked ward of a mental hospital to be with the oldest people in the hospital. And I said, none of these people are violent and will hurt you, but you might see them doing things that are very strange or bizarre. They might be talking to someone that's not there. They might be making weird gestures or motions. And there's one fellow named Frank. I have to tell you about Frank. He wears his shoe on his head like a hat, and it's amazing. He can walk around all day and it doesn't ever fall off. I've never seen it fall off. No one knows why he does this because he's never talked to anyone. And I said, one thing you have to know about Frank, when he gets scared, he swears really loud, but he'll never hurt you. That just means he's afraid. And I had spent a semester with the students learning how to be present and listen and just be kind to people. We spent a whole semester on that. And then we go into the hospital. And we walk in on the first day, and the kids are a little nervous. You know, it's their first time coming in. And there's a big room that all the people are in during the day. And sure enough, Frank sees us come in. And he gets really nervous. I can tell when he starts pacing around with his wingtip shoe on his head. And he walked right over to the smallest girl in the class, in the group. And he just started swearing. I had to look some words up. I mean, he was a master at swearing. And the girl just stood there and waited until he stopped swearing. And when he stopped, she went, "Oh, hi." You must be Frank. It's really nice to meet you. And it took the wind right out of his sails, and he walks over and sits down. Now, I watched this girl go around and talk with each person. And I told them, you can just share with them about your life, about what you like to do. Talk to them as if they're your best friend rather than as if they're crazy. So finally, she came over and sat down next to Frank and just sat there quietly and didn't say anything. And it was unbelievable because he got a little nervous. And then she just sat there calmly and in loving presence. And at a certain point, he calmed down. And then she turned toward him and just started, "It's nice to meet you, Frank. How's your day been going?" "I've been having a good day so far. I had a class earlier today, and we were learning about this. And yesterday I went to a birthday party," and she just would talk normal. Unbelievable, the power of loving presence. Most people get all caught up in negative thinking because they're not used to being around 100% unconditional loving presence. Halfway through the semester, Frank turned to her and started talking to her. It's the first time he had talked to anybody in years. Other people, in the face of kindness and warmth and love, calmed down and became much more lucid. The principles help you have compassion for people rather than take it personally. You can see their only problem is they're caught up in some kind of thinking that's making them frightened or upset. It's not about you. It's not personal. And if you can see a person suffering and you have understanding at the same time, you'll feel compassion instead of being annoyed, bothered, scared, upset. That's one way of answering your question. It's a wonderful question. I hope that was helpful.
What came to my mind was really similar about the presence, and then I just remind to myself how different it is if I really sit with someone or if I sit with his diagnosis, if I want really to, if I'm sitting in the present, but I am trying to help and save, or if I am sitting in the present, that it's really different feeling. So
beautiful. Thank you, guys. Next questions. What about those dealing with chronic pain and other illnesses where the sensations are so strong that they are very distracting, i.e., for example, unable to be present?
I was in the hospital. I was undergoing a 2-hour procedure that was extremely painful. And it just kept going on and on and on. It felt like it went on forever. At one point, I realized what I was thinking. I hate this. So now I'm feeling hate because you feel whatever you think. I hate this. Now I'm feeling hate. So I have pain and hate. I can't stand this. Now I'm feeling pain and I can't stand this, so I'm experiencing it. I can't stand it. And then I have the thought I'm being tortured. What does that make the nurse that's doing this? The torturer. I'm so caught up in my thinking. I just kept one very negative thought after another. And suddenly I realized the movie I was creating, the story I was telling myself, and I became present. I didn't try to become present. I just became present. And I looked out the window and there was a beautiful tree and I felt beauty because that was in my thinking. I felt beauty. And then I saw a clock and I felt neutral. And then I saw my wife's face and she had so much compassion on her face. I felt love. And then I noticed how tenderly the nurse was holding my arm and she stopped being a torturer. And I just said to her, I know this must be hard for you and I really appreciate your trying to do this. And I know it's been difficult, but thank you for being so tender with me. And my wife said after that, every once in a while, I just say something really kind to people. I wasn't trying. It's natural. And then I felt pain. But it wasn't my whole life. It wasn't my whole experience. I've worked with people in chronic pain. When they're fully present and feeling love, they're not experiencing pain. So there's pain and then there's psychological suffering. And psychological suffering is a variable. And as that variable changes, you can go from experiencing unbelievable pain to not feeling pain at all. That because of the psychological variable.
Kateřina, you want to say something or should we go to the next question?
Let's go to the next question because it was amazing answer for me.
We judge the world through the prism of our thinking. And what if this is not a prism, but a fact? You were hit, slandered. This is causing pain. I am not respected. This is a thought, and this is a fact. Let's say the thought goes away, reality remains, and the emotion of fear and hatred also remain. What can be done here? Thanks in advance.
I love this. Kateřina, you want to take a stab at this one?
I will need to read it again.
We judge the world through the prism of our own thinking. And what if this is not a prism, but a fact? You were hit, slandered. This is causing pain. I am not respected. This is a thought, and this is a fact. Let's say the thought goes away, but reality remains. And the emotion of fear and hatred also remains. What can be done here?
Honestly, I don't understand so many words in this question. Can you say it, your words, or can you start again and I will continue?
Go for it, Dicken, come on.
Maybe I'll take a stab at it, Kateřina, and then you can say you're in an abusive relationship and you're thinking about that, and so you're experiencing your life through the thinking you're living in. That's true. And that when your head clears, the abuse is still happening. I worked with a woman who loved the man she was with, but when he would get angry, he would become physical. And they would fight, And then she'd say, I'm leaving, and he would hit her and beat her up. And this happened over and over and over and over again. And when she started learning the principles, she had the assumption that if she let go of her anger, she would not be protected. She would be incredibly vulnerable. And wouldn't respond. So I had to also teach her about wisdom, that when you become present, you don't become stupid, you become wiser. Here's what happened. She went to this man for the first time when he was in a really good state and she was in a good state. And she said to him with so much love, oh my gosh. She said, I love you more than I've ever loved any other person. Now he's being affected by this. So he's really listening. And she said, and when you get upset, you don't take responsibility for it and you act on it. And you become violent. As much as I love you, I can't live with you while you're being this way. I said, and she said to him, I love you. I've never loved anybody more. And if ever I know that you've changed so that you can take responsibility for your upset rather than acting on it, I'd be right back. But in the meantime, I'm going to go. And she had her suitcase packed. And it's the first time she said, I'm leaving, that he didn't try and stop her. It's the first time she said it from love rather than from anger. And she walked out. Just because wisdom is wisdom. When we're fully present, our wisdom will tell us when to run away from something that's dangerous and when to stay. It'll tell us what to say and what not to say. It'll let us know when to open our mouth and when to keep it shut. It's the intelligence of the universe. If we don't trust that, we're going to trust our thinking that says, I have to do this, I should do this, I can't do this. And that thinking tends to make people more and more upset. What they tell people who are in dangerous life and death situations, they always say, stay calm. They never tell people, think yourself up into an angry frenzy or a fearful frenzy. They say, stay calm. Why is that? Because when people are calm, they deal better with dangerous situations. That's why we have to talk about all three principles. I've known people, it's just thought, I let it go, but they don't know about wisdom, so they go right back into their intellect to try and protect themselves or guide themselves by their intellect, what they think they should do. And it doesn't work. Did that make it clear, Kateřina?
Yeah.
What the question was?
Yes, it was, and your answer was great as well. If I am present, I just know better what to do in that moment.
Yeah.
Someone to push me, I can see it more clearly. And what came to my mind was the story of my really close friend of mine. She was raped, and she struggled many years after that because she was thinking that she needed to fight more during it. And then she realized that she heard the voice, be calm, be calm. And it was something what helped her survive it. It was wisdom in the moment. She was in the moment. And she just didn't fight during the process. And it saved her life. But she saw it after she found the three principles, that it was her wisdom in that moment, protect her, didn't be killed, and survive it. Yeah, and I will go back to, if we are present, we just see what is on the plate and we are able to eat better. That. Yeah.
Beautiful.
We have to find that out for ourselves.
Yeah.
Don't take our word for it.
No.
You find out if you don't do better when you're fully present than when you're caught up in thinking. Sid always said, don't listen to other people's advice. You find out what's true. You see the difference between being caught up in thought and being present. You see the difference in feeling. You see the difference in how well you do when you come up to a higher level of consciousness. And then it's yours. Then it's not intellectual. Looks like there's another question.
There are many.
Oh.
There are many. So we have
We'll give shorter answers.
the first one is just a comment. It says, thank you, everyone. That's been so incredibly beautiful. I love the reminder of the wellspring of wisdom that is available moment by moment. Also, that we will still have moments that we forget that. Finally, in unconditional loving presence, other people have wisdom, arise wisdom that is just right for them. Love you all so much.
No.
Okay, next one says, I am working with people who have schizophrenia and come to me for medication and talk. In these 2 years, all I see is that doctors tell them something is wrong. It is wrong to hear voices and want to talk about their past. But none of my patients ever want to talk about their past. Why? Because it makes them feel bad.
Yes.
I told one patient who has been to forensic psychiatry for arson, I told him that he has perfect well-being, everyone else. He called me later that day saying no one in his life had ever told him that. He is always happy when we meet, and I never talk about his paranoid thoughts. And my colleagues are afraid of him because they have negative thoughts about him, and they feel that, and he feels that. Next one says, hey, I loved what speakers have said. 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And I know that I let people down a lot in my life. How can I abstain from the thoughts that I am a bad person? What do I do when I am that Frank Dicken was talking about?
No thought can hurt you. Every thought is neutral until we grab onto it and think it's true, which is the only way we can suffer psychologically. So I can have the thought, I want to kill somebody. And if I know it's just a thought, it's neutral and it passes. So I don't have to be afraid of that thought anymore. I could have the thought, I want to kill myself. If I know it's just a thought, it's neutral. So Sid Banks says every thought is neutral until we give it meaning. So you can have any thought, horrible thoughts, and if you know they're thoughts and they're just flowing through you, you're healthy as can be. Marina talked about this a lot, our relationship to our thinking. Aaron and Marina, our relationship to our thinking. One time, I was really caught up in a lot of crazy thinking, and guess who walked into the room? Sid Banks. It was almost like I'm embarrassed. Oh my God, he's seeing me insane, totally consumed by my thinking. And he walks over and sits down next to me. I am freaking out. Finally, I look at him, and he's just loving presence. And what occurred to him to say to me was, Dicken, don't you know that when you feel this way, you can just ignore everything you're thinking? At my level of understanding, what I heard, because I'm about at a 2-year-old level, what I heard was, you have healthy thoughts, and if you want to, you can pay attention to them, and it'll nourish you. And you have thoughts that make you feel this way. Those are shitty thoughts. You eat food, you eliminate waste. Waste is not bad or wrong, but you don't want to mess with it. What do? Flush it. So it's okay to have crazy thoughts. If you know they're thoughts, you just let them go and you're sane. If you hold on to it and think it's true, that's the only way you will suffer. So when I've worked with people with bipolar, as they begin to not be frightened of their thoughts and feelings, they begin to live. They begin to let those old negative thoughts just come and go. They just ignore them. They don't pay attention to them. They don't sit down. As one client said, I don't sit down and have coffee with that thought anymore. I don't argue with it. I don't fight it. I don't judge it. I just let it go. That's the short answer.
I don't know if I will respond to really the question, but I have something. I believe so many things. I have so many thoughts about myself during the day, and they are different, but I am still, the same. It's interesting to go with some of the thoughts and trust it more, if it can be changed so quickly. And the second, what I really felt when Dicken spoke was, again, for me, it's the gratitude for the spices of the thought, what helps me to see that I'm eating something and I don't know that I'm eating something, just to wake me up that I don't need to eat this. I don't like it. It's so much spicy, I don't need it. And the last thing, I think that we have some, I think that we have some poop here around me just now because the dog is so happy. But it brings me again, if I will try to, figure it out the poop, I will smell it more. I will feel it more. I will experience it more.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the thinking about, the bad thinking about me. Or, yeah.
There are a couple of more questions. Do you guys have time for them?
I'm going nowhere, so if people can stay, yeah, sure.
There are a couple more. So the next one says, thank you, Dicken and Kateřina. You brought me from crying to laughing within minutes, several times. And your stories about kids, dogs, and a boyfriend are extremely inspiring. I keep smiling since half an hour at least. And I keep asking myself, is it because of those guys? And thanks to Kateřina, I can answer confidently, no.
Yeah, beautiful.
What about situations when you need to react immediately? When someone is shaming you, for example, or acting violently towards you or your beloved ones. And when you try to look inside, be present, it seems that emotions and thoughts are getting too loud. It is of no use.
I don't know if it's true for you as well, but I see that if I am in this situation and I am aware of it, something happened to me to be really present and act. Do you know? It's like waking up immediately to the present. If it's real, I see the real danger. I'm just wondering, yeah, I'm not answering the question, but they can help me.
Well, there's times when I'm caught up, and at that moment, I can't do any better than what I do. So no matter what I do, I can be more compassionate toward myself, that when I'm caught up, I don't have as much clarity and common sense. And I used to beat myself up for that. I used to get upset with myself for not doing better. Now I don't, because I see that's thought. Why would I hold on to that judgmental thought? I let it go. So you learn to see, no matter what people do at any time, they're doing the best they can, given the thinking they're doing and the level of consciousness they're on. You can't do better than you do at that moment. In order to do better, you'd have to have access to wisdom and better thinking. But sometimes we don't. Sometimes we don't. But later on, when my head clears, I might get new ideas for how to deal with something better. That often happens. As a parent, that would happen to me a lot. Whoa. Oh, wow. And I get new creative ideas. I go back to the unknown, to the world of possibilities, and I get new and fresh thinking. So you might not be able to do it at the time, but at some point you will. It's never too late to access wisdom, to access new and fresh thinking. Never too late.
I love that you saw the judgment of ourselves, that we can do it better in it. Because we really every time doing the best what we can. If what we have on the plate, and what we have on the plate, it means some thinking, some state of mind, some level. It's what we have in that moment, and what is really cool for me was to knowing that it was true every time in my past, with everything what I did, that is true for everyone, and that we can, what we can, and it's true for the future as well, that we will do the best every moment we can do, and we don't have to have worry about it, because it's just true. We will do the best in the moment, this is the tenses in the English, sorry, but we will do the best again.
Beautiful. Okay, next question. How to discern for yourself if it is your wisdom or your intellect / ego.
If I'm trying to discern, I'm in my intellect. I don't care. I'm just doing the best I can. And our feeling, as you've been told over and again, is your best guide. It's your best guide. Sid used to say, wisdom always comes via a positive feeling. So if you're in this kind of feeling, it's not your wisdom. It's I should do something, or I need to do something, or, oh, this makes sense to me, but it's not common sense. Common sense is a thought that comes and, oh, this makes sense, and it feels good. So the feeling is your best guide. But Sid used to say, keep it simple. Just go and enjoy your life. Don't be thinking about the principles. And when you lose a good feeling, if you know it's just thinking, it'll bring you back to the now, and you'll come back up and then go on and enjoy your life.
There is a comment that says, it is easy to mistake wisdom for your own ideas. Some ideas and desires feel right, but they may lead to negative consequences indeed.
Yeah. Feeling is the feeling. Sid would say, listen for the feeling.
And
If you're in a good feeling, trust it. Whatever you want to say or do, trust it.
And the last question. I often feel like a scary movie. The feelings, thoughts that other people experience frighten me so much, overwhelm me so much that I withdraw from communication so that I don't get hurt. How can I remain stable so that I can show love and compassion and not get hurt myself? I can't do it yet. It's like I am starting to live through someone else's scary movie.
Have you ever tried to scare yourself? I'm going to get you. You can't do it. When you know that it's you trying to do it, if you really forget the other person, if you see that your fear is just some thoughts you're holding on to, that it's not bad or wrong, if you really see that, you'll begin to come back to the present moment, and your fear will just start to lighten up, loosen, get softer. That's it. I lived in fear for a long, long time, and gradually I just started seeing it as an invitation to come back to the present moment. Nothing I could think about would help. And I'd just come back and I'd go on, and I'd be afraid, and if I withdrew from people, I withdrew from people. If I didn't, but it started to soften and soften and soften. And I still get afraid at times, but it's not as big a deal, and it just comes through and it gets softer quicker. No, you're muted, Marina.
Natalia says, I was afraid to reveal my concerns, but now I feel so blessed with your answers. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. I'm so glad you asked that. That was my question for a very long time. Gradually, I started just seeing thought and action in myself. Forget the other person. Sid would say, forget the other person, look within. If you're holding thought, it'll bring you back to the now. You'll get quieter, and then your feeling will soften, and then you'll know better how to deal with anything.
It's so huge difference if I see that I scare myself. Because then I have fear, but fear doesn't have me. If I see that I am creating, it's a little bit less scary.
Yeah. Beautiful. That's beautiful. This has been fun, folks. Thank you. It's been a delight being with you.
It has. Thank you, Dicken. Thank you, Kateřina. It's been an absolute blessing having you here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Please, 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 if you can, donate to the 3PGC. Go to our homepage and donate. Whatever you donate is helpful for this organization and will allow us to keep doing the work we do, to keep sharing this vital message. And in the meantime, go and enjoy your lives, given everything you have heard and learned. And the other questions that are in the chat now, we will try to address them tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Masha. Thank you, Olena. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Kateřina and Dicken.
Thank you, Marina.
Marina.